I'm glad you're both here because there's no doubt the consumer's been feeling pretty great and shopping a lot. Janet, what's your outlook now?
So, I mean, I think that's expected to continue through 2020, and credit card companies will ultimately be the beneficiary of that. Credit card interest rates are at an all-time high, despite interest rates in other sectors of the economy falling. So, unless you see a real shock to the consumer in the coming year, I think we can expect credit card companies to continue on their profitable path, at least in the short term.
Right. And so when you talk about this, Matt, about some profitability and a consumer that feels strong, we've already you were noting some of the things out of Citi and Chase, for example. What are your thoughts based on what you've heard so far?
Well, to echo what Janet just said, the consumer is pretty strong, although I do think that there are signs of weakness and that the consumer may not be as strong as some of the data shows, because I do think that even though delinquencies are still pretty low, people are still piling on debt. And I think that when that economic slowdown eventually comes, whenever that might be, I think things are going to turn a little ugly a little faster than people might expect for some credit card holders, because there is an awful lot of debt out there.
Janet, what do you think?
So I think that's where Amex is particularly well positioned, because about 80% of their revenue is from non-interest sources. It comes from fees, it comes from subscription-based fees. And of course, the Amex consumer tends to be a little bit better heeled, more affluent, less likely to feel the shock of an economic impact. But I do agree with Matt that so long as credit card interest rates are very high and wage growth continues at a muted rate, eventually it's going to catch up to consumers, and eventually it will catch up to the more traditional parts of the credit card sector.
When we talk about some of these fees that Janet just mentioned, Matt, I mean, for example, American Express always calls me and says, please get the Platinum. It's only $550. The Sapphire card from Chase just went up another $100. So they do get a lot in fees. Are they worth it? And is this how they continue to make money?
It's worth it it's worth it depending on how you use the card. I'm personally a holder of this Chase Sapphire Reserve, and I use it and I get value out of it, but I know it's not for everybody. But I do also think that even though we're seeing those cards with $550 annual fees, I do think that those fees are still going to increase, because I think that issuers believe that we haven't quite hit the market top of what the market will bear as far as those fees go. So we may not see that jump anytime super soon, but I do think directionally that $550 probably isn't as high as those fees are going to go.
I mean, we already have high rates. The consumer's spending. They're charging us fees, and you're saying that fees may even go higher. Janet, what do you think?
Well, I think to Matt's point, also some of the concierge services that these credit card services are offering. So things like airport services, platinum clubs, platinum concierge services, all of these things cost money, and marketing costs also cost money. So to the extent that you're marketing high-fee credit cards, you also have to invest a high deal amount of money in marketing those high-deal cards, and I think that's where the increase in fees can be probably felt.
What happens to credit cards versus everything else? You know, Apple Pay and Venmo and good old cash. Do all of these types of cards stay alive, Janet?
I think they do, because I think there's always going to be space for differentiation in this sector. I think that the differentiation largely is along socioeconomic lines, right? So there's simply not going to be a market for these concierge services for people who are not as affluent. So that differentiation will always have to exist.
Right.
And mobile payments platforms, unfortunately, don't yet offer the types of rewards and incentives or the type of availability and ease of usage, ease of acceptance that credit cards offer. So until that happens, for the foreseeable future, I still see there being sort of that wide gamut of product offerings available.
Matt, I'll just give you a quick second to respond as well. Matt?
Yeah, no, I completely agree. Plastic cards aren't going anywhere. A lot of people have been reluctant to use mobile payments because they're afraid of doing things with their phone and worried about security, that sort of thing. Good old plastic card is going to stick around for a while.